President-elect, and hello to everybody. I am Tenzin Zedin, Secretary of Tibet House Trust, London. I am delighted to welcome you all, our sponsors, supporters, and friends of Tibet House Trust and Office of Tibet, London. And I warmly welcome His Eminence Lelung Rinpoche to our annual talk event, which is on approaching mindfulness for mental health. We are so glad that we are able to host this event in person this time, as we got chance to meet you all after very hard pandemic time that we all faced through. We just celebrated Labab Tujen on 27 October, which is one of the 4 events commemorating 4 events in the life of Buddha, according to Tibetan tradition. So we feel that having this special event just after a day of such an auspicious day makes this event even more special. Tibet House Trust is a registered charity and His Holiness is our patron. Tibet House Trust remains true to fulfill the wishes and vision of His Holiness Dalai Lama, and through the various programs, Tibet House Trust work hard to preserve the distinct Tibetan culture and identity, enable Tibetans to live a sustainable life in exile, while working towards eventual return to their homeland. Tibet House Trust aims to reflect the aims and aspirations of Tibet community in exile, and it upholds the social and community development pursued by Central Tibetan Administration under leadership of His Holiness. Since its inception, Tibet House Trust has worked hard closely with various departments of Tibetan Central Tibetan Administration on a number of projects for health, educational, cultural, economic, and community development needs of the refugee community, and it has been carrying out Tibetan language and culture school in UK, arranging talks, exhibition, teaching on Tibetan Buddhism, history, literature, and so forth to preserve our unique identity and share it with the rest of the world, one of which is happening today. The Trust has been able to do all this only because of the financial support from our generous sponsors and well-wishers like you. Tibet House Trust will continue to serve the exile community and preserve its unique identity, which is under threat. I take this opportunity to thank all our donors and well-wishers for their continued generosity and support towards our program. To know more about Tibet House Trust and its program, you're welcome to have our leaflet, which is at the door after this talk. Now I would like to introduce our today's speaker, His Eminence Lelung Tulku Rinpoche. Although I'm sure many present here know His Eminence Lelung Rinpoche. Lelung Rinpoche is the reincarnation of Lodak Namkha Gyaltsen, who lived in 13th century and 14th century, who is considered as one of the most senior teacher and famous reincarnated lamas in Tibet. At the age of 14, he was recognized by His Holiness as the 11th reincarnation of Lodak Namkha Gyaltsen. Rinpoche completed his studies at Drepung Monastery at the age of 24 when he received Geshe degree. This is one of the highest degree given in the Gelugpa tradition. Rinpoche has founded Lelung Dharma Trust, through which he has been doing lots of charitable activity and is giving regular teaching to people in achieving their inner happiness. He has established the Lelung Literature Preservation Center in Dharamsala, which acts as the base for huge tasks of collecting data and vital research on lineage and taxes, reviving those dharma taxes that are in decline and develop those that have survived. Rinpoche has returned lineage of his predecessor in a book named A Drop from the marvelous ocean of history of the Lelung lineage, amongst others. Before I request Rinpoche to start the talk, I would like to quickly walk you through the format of the program. Rinpoche will speak for 35 minutes, and later, after that, we will have a direct question and answer session for 20 minutes. Without making further ado, with a very warm welcome, I request Rinpoche to kindly start the talk. Rinpoche, floor is yours.
I would like to say thank you to the Tibet House Trust for organizing this annual talk on this evening and inviting me to give a talk. And however, when I was asked to give a talk, I did mention that my English is not that good, so it might not be very good image for the Tibet House Trust. But our Sonamla representative of His Holiness Dalai Lama says it will be okay. So I'm here to talk about approaching the mindfulness for the mental health. So it's when we talk about or hear the mindfulness, it sounds quite simple, easy to approach. However, to understand the mindfulness itself and realizing and giving or cultivating the mindfulness that mentions in the Buddhism, it is quite difficult to do. So therefore, I was thinking maybe we go through 2 layers of mindfulness. Yeah. 2 layers of mindfulness, which the first, in a way that traditionally in Buddhism, what we realizing or recognizing what is the mindfulness is. And then later on, we talk about maybe modern way of learning the mindfulness and try to gain some benefit from it. So there are 6 aspects to discover the mindfulness, and they are like observed object of mindfulness and nature of mindfulness, accompanying cause of mindfulness, how to achieve mindfulness, and what are the benefits of achieving mindfulness, why it has the name called Tempanyesha or the mindfulness. So these are the aspects that we need to look at. In this way, we will be able to realize all these different qualities of mindfulness. So, when we talk about the observed object of mindfulness, there are 4 types of objects, such as a body and feeling and the consciousness or the mind, and also a phenomena. So these are the object of the mindfulness. And nature of mindfulness is that a consciousness that we have a leading consciousness as well as sub-leading consciousness or subconsciousness. So the mindfulness itself is the subconsciousness that follows the leading mind or the consciousness. So, like the leading mind means that the consciousness is the leader, and that subconsciousness are the entourage, the boss and the entourage together. So this always goes together. So when we talking about subconsciousness, it's like that. So, and in terms of also in the subconsciousness, there are so many different types of subconsciousness, which will not be able to count here. However, that the mindfulness that we are talking, the subconsciousness is there are 2 types or 2 different types of them. One is recollection mindfulness, and the other one is wisdom mindfulness. So when we talk about mindfulness, it got to be either of them. So when we are talking about mindfulness to be practiced, we have to recognize the object that where they are gazing the object. Then we are talking about these 4 different types of object. Then that is the nature of mindfulness. So now accompanying cause of mindfulness means that which accompanies the mindfulness, which I already mentioned earlier, yeah? That entourage like the subconsciousness. So now, how to achieve mindfulness? We will come that later on. So now that why is mindfulness taking up 4 different observed objects? Because ordinary beings, they think 3 types of feelings are possessed for their use. 3 types of feelings are possessed for their use. And they feel the mind or consciousness is their self. And they think all the other parties of the phenomena phenomena are base of ourself. So all the phenomena that we are around us, like the world, the planet, and all these, surrounding us, they feel that they are the basis of ourself. So now the nature of the mindfulness is now nature of it means the identity of the mindfulness or definition of the mindfulness is quite complicated. As I was mentioning, that mindfulness, it involves so many different possess different qualities or different activities because of the, for example, when meditating on a body, then you would be thinking of either individual body or general bodies. And also when you are meditating on feelings, then individuals' feelings or the general. Like that. Therefore, the identity of the mindfulness or the definition is quite complicated to mention. However, I tried here to mention you using essential recognition or wisdom. One contemplates on one of the four observed objects and analyzes the definition of object into character, into individual character and general character, possessed only by the beings that have entered the paths. So this is the definition of mindfulness. So that only, as you can see the last line, that we are talking about that only possessed by the beings that have entered paths. So it means that we talk about 15 different paths, hearers, 5 parts of hearers, and 5 parts of self-realizers, and 5 parts of Mahayana. So, in order to achieve in terms of stage, the first stage, like for example, hearers accumulation stage, it takes for 1 aeons of accumulation of merits to gain that. So once you gain that, in that state, you'll be able to achieve the mindfulness. So in this way, it makes us a bit far to achieve the mindfulness that's talking in Buddhism. However, I will continue to talk how to achieve mindfulness. There are two types of practicing mindfulness. A, meditating on individual phenomena, character, and B, meditating on general phenomena, characters. So the first one, meditating on individual characters are body being impurity, feeling being suffering, the mind being momentary or impermanent, and afflicted phenomena are to be abandonment, and Dharma of total purity are to be cultivation. The B, that mind meditating on the general phenomena characters, meditation on all that is compound, is impermanent. Everything that deteriorates is suffering. All phenomena are empty and devoid of a self entity. Enlightenment is the peace. So that when we are practicing the mindfulness, we will be meditating on 4 different types of object. However, the reason to practice mindfulness is to understand more details of the Four Noble Truths. So, therefore, when you meditating on the body, you will be realizing that the body is impurity, and that we need. So, therefore, you will be have a wish to pure our body, or the gain, leaving the body and gain the physical impure body, leave behind and achieve higher level of we can say invisible or rainbow-like body. And then when we are meditating on that, is we are the first noble truth, which is truth of suffering. We are meditating on, recognizing the truth of suffering by practicing mindfulness on the body. So then, secondly, that when we are practicing the mindfulness of the feeling, that we are trying to realizing that all the feelings, the 3 types of feelings, all these are terminated, that diluted, which will bring more suffering and produces all the time more and more suffering. So that way, this is something that we want to get rid of, and we want more a feeling that not terminated feelings, so that you will want to, first of all, in this way, you will realize these feelings and what and where it come from. Then you find the root of those suffering feelings. So then third one, that meditating on mind or the consciousness is in many ways that when we were talking about the emptiness, I is not exist by itself. We are talking about I and everything is emptiness. Then people get shocked, and then people don't want to lose I want to be I am here. What are you talking about? And then they, have a confusion there. And then many people also scared when you talk about emptiness of I, emptiness of all phenomena, and so on and so forth. So therefore, when you are meditating on this I, you will be able to realize that emptiness, the I is the emptiness. At the same time, you will be able to find a I, or the consciousness, that have a continuation, and it never be disappeared. But yet it is clear. It is nature of the I, or nature of the mind. It's clear like a crystal. However, at the moment it is covered by all these negative emotions, and that is not only very thin dirt. It is like huge dirt that covered, layered on one on another. So many layers of dirt or dust on our consciousness of the mind, although it is very clear, like crystal clear, like crystal. So this dust or fall on this mind for not only one lifetime, but so many lifetimes, beginningless of mind lifetimes. So we have adding all these negative emotions, negativities on the mind. Therefore, we are unable to recognize what actual phenomena, identity, true phenomena, true self. We are always in a delusion to recognize ourselves. So therefore, we have fightings, we have lots of disagreements, dispute, and so on and so forth at all the time. Therefore, human beings, in one way we live together, on another way we always fight, and I and you, always there's difficulties. Even family, even couple, even parents, or between the children. So that's the problem, because we always have a feeling that when something that we do, it is I'm right. When somebody else does it, it is wrong. That's our judgment. So that not necessarily always true, although in a general level, in a society, in ordinary, when we are talking about right and wrong, maybe one could be right, one could be wrong, but in a deeper level, and whatever we are judging, whatever we are thinking, even we think we are right and other people think we are right, we still be wrong because how we are perceiving is wrong perceived, because we don't know exactly what is the nature of the I, what is the nature of the others, what is the nature of the phenomena. Therefore, we are always confused, and although we think we are right. So the benefit that is the third one. The fourth one is okay. Then by practicing the mindfulness on the mind, taking the object of mind, then you will realize that there, you would not shocked after all, knowing that okay, the I is still be able to identify it, although it is emptiness, although it is not exist by itself, we are still able to recognize I. We are still be able to recognize others. We are still able to live like normal and talk and understand each other, be able to communicate. So in this way, you will see the I could be one day the consciousness one day could be purified or cleared all these negativities, and then that you will gain the enlightenment, so that you get that huge hope. So therefore, that is the benefit of the practicing the mindfulness, taking object of the mind. That is the four of them for benefit of the taking the four different types of object into meditation. So okay, that's the third. The fourth one is the taking the phenomena as an object and meditating on the phenomena in general. That you will that would help to realizing the path that in the Four Noble Truth, the path or truth of path, you will be able to realize more clearly truth of path, and there is a way to get rid of all these negativities, and there is a way to gain all the qualities, so that you will be able to differentiate, and you will be able to abandon all the negativities and purify all the negativities, and then also by doing that you will also gain wisdom, and that wisdom realizing the true nature of the emptiness, true nature of self, true nature of others, true nature of all the phenomena. So in this way, you will not make any more mistakes, any more faults then you will, whatever you act, whatever you do, you will be, that will be a plus. It will be add on to gain the merits and achieve higher realization, and then sooner or later, depend on our effort, you will gain the either or the one of those three arahats. The arahat means four destroyer, that Hera's destroyer, or the self-realizer's destroyer, and the enlightenment. So you will be able to achieve. It depends on which path you are taking in. These are three different types of beings or the practitioners. One is we call it Hera, Nyingtu, and then self-realizer. Then to be able to take a part or take a part of Mahayana paths or tradition, then we have to cultivate the bodhicitta. In order to cultivate the bodhicitta, we have to cultivate the loving compassion, and so on and so forth. That this all has many different stages to go through, which we will not be able to go. So now that is a kind of outline of the Buddhist tradition, mindfulness. And now I haven't been or hear properly what modern way of practicing the mindfulness. However, I think that the mindfulness that is popular, and it's mainly taking out of some of these essence into modern days, that we can still be able to benefit. The actual mindfulness is far away to gain, far away to achieve. However, that we still be able to practice in order to achieve mindfulness itself. It will take time. However, of course, in order to gain the mindfulness, we have to practice. So therefore, we are in the stage of practice. So therefore, we may not necessarily need to take all these part, or the have to gather all these different methods together and practice. Yet be able to take some method here and there and to help our mental health. So, which I think is being taught in the West. So now that from what I wanted to mention by practicing mindfulness is that giving some examples, and then how we can take on difficult situations, how to tackle the problems, how to, especially when we are into darkness or in a depressed situation or depressed. So how we should be using the mindfulness to tackle this. So the mindfulness, without thinking all the details of the mindfulness in the text, but in here, if we say in a few simple way, what is mindfulness? Is think into what we are doing, what we are talking, what we are reacting to, all these types. So then when we are able to think ourselves, where I am, and what I can feel, and who I am, how would I differentiate from others, with others, and then especially when we have desire, and also the angers, arising angers, and all this time, and then we think through, see what is the reason that I'm getting angry, what is the reason that I am having desire or attachment. So then when we think, for example, anger, because of something went wrong. Is it because ourselves did something wrong, or somebody else did something that causes your anger? So then we think like this way. Then if somebody else have caused you this problem, therefore you're getting angry, then so now you're angry, so what would you do? And many of the time when people are angry, they shout, and they may be trying to take some action, and revenge, all these different things that you would hit back to the person who caused you the anger. So is that correct, or is that right to do so? If I do it, is it I am doing the right thing? We have to think. So when we are thinking inwards, that is mindfulness. So am I doing the right thing? Am I right? Then of course, think this way. If then you are thinking of revenge, you are thinking of hit back, then at that point, just think that you are standing on other people, that person's shoe, and then the other person is in your shoe, standing on your shoe. Then that person is going to revenge or hit you back, and badly, that whatever you are thinking, then would you be happy? Would you be delighted to receive hit back, something bad news, something that you don't want, something that cause you maybe trauma or problems? Would you be happy? Oh no, this is what I don't want. So then you come back to your own shoes, stand on your own shoe, and then, or on your own feet. Then think again, do you still want to act in this way? And would this really help? Is this something positive? Is this something negative? When we are talking about positive and negative here, it doesn't matter whether you believe in a religion or not. As a human being, we all have feelings. We all want happiness. Nobody would say, I want suffering at all. So everyone is wanting happiness. So then that is the nature of human being, nature of sentient beings. So when you trying to harm others, is that correct? If you think, okay, that is fine, why not? Just do it, harm them. Then again, think, if I'm, in that situation, if somebody is going to hit me, beat me, or kill me, is that what would you do? Would you just ask them to go ahead? I'm happy to be beaten. You say no. You'll be asking please and forgiveness and so on and so forth. So I was thinking today that, we always saying excuse me and sorry. That word is so useful, and everybody are being using this forgive me and sorry and so on. Yeah, these words. Excuse me, especially. Every moment you can hear excuse me, especially in being in a nice area. So, excuse me, the meaning is what? Excuse me. Pardon me. What that means? I'm not perfect. I made a mistake. Will you forgive me? You're asking. That's the word, isn't it? So that is in our mouth, and we always using it. So if we want excuse, then why not give other people an excuse? So then think this way, and then while you doing the mindfulness, then self and others, always I think this is very useful for us to think in this way, so that we will not harm others, that also others will not harm us without reasons, and so on and so forth. That's one way of using the mindfulness, practicing the mindfulness, and in this way we will have more happiness. Sometimes, some situations, if I act angrily, then the result could be worse. Yet, then using the mindful method, okay, hold on, is it good to act this way? Then you just think, oh, this is not right to do this way, and then you calm down with it, and then talk maybe a bit nicer then that might help the job you wanted to do, that might do the work what you wanted to achieve, and may you gain rather than you lose. So the another level of using the mindfulness is that not only putting your foot in other people's shoe, standing on other people's shoe, and on the other people stepping on your shoe, standing on your shoe, but now that counting our activities in a day, how much time, for example, think through the time, 12 hours, 24 hours, how much time I'm sleeping, how much time I'm awake, and while I'm awake, how much time I have been using for some good cause, and how much time I have wasting, or maybe even causing problems. And obviously nowadays it's so modern. Everybody got a mobile and an iPad and a computer and so on and so forth, those gadgets. So, how much time we spending on the gadget, and whether you are spending on the mobile or iPad or gadget, is it for something to bring happiness for self, or happiness to bring happiness to society, or is it something that waste of time? So all you think through, you think about, and then we are talking about our life is a precious life, and why it is precious? The life is precious only if you are able to utilize the life to benefit self, not only self, also many other beings. In this way, we are called human beings. Yeah? And who can recollect, who can do more than animals, who can do more than insects. So, if we are just, wasting our time, just watching something that's not useful, doing something that not useful, and the wasting of time, and then, having delicious food, have a nice home, have a nice car. It's just little different way of spending our life. Yet, meaning-wise, there is no meaning whatsoever where we are spending our time, and animals, how they're spending their life. There's not much differences. So, in order to make differences between animals and humans, or insects, all other beings, that we have to appreciate that we have life, we have to appreciate that we have 5 sensories, and that could use to bring happiness, ourselves and others. When we have ability to bring happiness, bring joy, and be capable of helping others, that capacity, when we have in our hand, if we are not using, then one day that ability will die out. Then when you are, old, or maybe you are too old and you can't do anything. You are maybe in a hospital bed. At that time, you wanted to do something. Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, and so on and so forth. When you regret, that's too late. So we must act right away, right now. You know, our life is dying every moment. Since we were born, we are started dying. Yeah, we are, whatever we do, we call it, oh, to survive. Yet, it is all about, dying. We are in the passage to dying. So, well, before we die, what do we want to do? Cause more problems, troubles, and harm other people, and then of course doing that always, if a proper human being that feels bad, doing all these negativities, so you wouldn't want to do that, and then you wanted to do more beneficial. So this is the time to start and act. Sorry. Okay.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Now we will open the floor for question and if anyone have any question to ask.
First of all, thank you very much, Rinpoche, for your interesting speech. And I have, to be honest, many questions that I would like to ask you, but I don't think that the time would allow. So I confine my question only to one that I'm really interested to hear your views on. And it is, as you started talking about mindfulness, I have seen some similarities between mindfulness and awareness. But as you started and continued explaining more and more, I could see similarities as well as differences. Could you please distinguish between mindfulness and awareness, or are they the same ideas that you were referring to? Thank you.
Awareness is a mind that realizing what it is, and I think the mindfulness is to more like recognizing what it is: cup, glass, or vase, jug, and vase, and flower, and then you realize, and then as a recollection of what you have seen. For example, close your eyes, still you will remember the flower was yellow, and then the jug was see-through, and the glass was also, and things like that. That recollection type. And then the awareness is to realizing what it is. So that I would say.
Hi, Rinpoche. If we are meditating or being aware of nature and mind, and we're looking at a space, and we notice that a thought arises and it liberates, is that all done within the realm of a laya vidya, or is that Rigpa recognizing the thought and recognizing it disappearing?
Please, can you say again?
If we are meditating nature of mind, and we are in a thoughtless state, and a thought arises, and we are aware that the thought has arisen and it liberates. Is that all done within a layer vidya, or is that Rigpa recognizing that the thought has come and liberated?
I still didn't get properly. Are you asking that while we are meditating on emptiness, then still there are thoughts arising?
If there's no thought,
If
and
there's
then a
no
thought
thought,
arises and we recognize, and then the thought disappears, is that Rigpa recognizing the thought disappearing, or is that all done within the alaya vidya of?
if anything recognized, it got to be the mind is recognizing the ripa. It's recognizing what if it's disappearing or it is arising. Any thoughts got to be recognized by ripa or the consciousness.
So if we are recognizing Rigpa, is that co-emergent wisdom?
What wisdom?
Co-emergent wisdom?
You're using different. Okay. Once in different traditions in the Tibetan Buddhism, we're using different terms in our practice. So in a Nyingma tradition, we're talking about that realizing the Rigpa, recognizing the true nature of Rigpa is the Karsa. Then the time you will be approach the enlightenment, yeah. So then in other traditions, such as like Gelupa, we talk when you are understanding the emptiness on the Ripa, then you barely emptiness on the Ripa, taking the object of Ripa, then you will, when you seeing bare emptiness on the Ripa, then you will reach the Tonglam, which is seeing part, the first part, first stage of 10 stage, the Tonglam.
Thank you. Rinpoche, I'd be interested to hear your opinion about the potential value or not of mindfulness being taught here in the West in schools to children.
I think the mindfulness, as long as it has the concept of the mindfulness that's taught in the traditional way, then when you are trying to talk to children or other people who doesn't have much of knowledge or background of traditional teachings, you may, make it easier, explain different ways, giving lots of different examples. That sort of way, I would think it would help a lot for the younger generations, because in our West that have a way of maybe this way hasn't got this thinking putting other people more important than ourselves. That sort of idea is not almost exist in our West. Then putting ourselves the first, many people may say that it is more important to think in that way, because in this way you be improving in a study, improving your whatever. However, toward the end, that sort of mentality may bring more suffering, and then you wouldn't have much of you wouldn't be able to cope when difficulties arises in front of you. Then you have no much of idea how to deal, and you may have some physical methods or whatever. However, in a mental state, you won't have much of idea what's going on, how to deal with. However, putting others more important or equally important, that is very important. When you think in this way, taught in this way, then you always respect others. You also, in this way, others always respect us. So there is equality there, and always, have more joy, more fun than thinking I am the best, I am the first.
So I will end this question and answer session. Thank you, Rinpoche, for the wonderful talk and for sharing your wisdom and profound advice. And as a token of gratitude, we would like to offer Khadak, and I would like to request our chairperson, Mr. Sonam Tsering Farsila, to please offer this Khadak to Rinpoche.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you so much. We hope you had great time, and you will share the wisdom, the information you gain in this talk to your friends and family and people around you. Thank you. Have a happy weekend. Tuchenang.